Hi, my name is Sean McCausland, and today I'll be giving a message titled Forgiving as Christ Forgave, and I will be reading from Genesis 45, verses 1 to 15. So, with Easter not being too far away from now, I wanted to talk about another important story of forgiveness and reconciliation. This one being the story of Joseph forgiving his brothers. Now, at this point in time, Joseph had already become the second most powerful man in Egypt, and his brothers, during the second year of the 7-year famine, had come to Egypt seeking food as they were running low back in their home in Israel. Now, this was the moment in Scripture, not long after Joseph had already recognized that these were his brothers, but now had officially revealed himself to him. So let us take a look at the text, shall we? Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him and cried, "Have everyone go out from me." So there was no man with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. He wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard of it. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Please come closer to me." And they came closer, and he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now do not be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are still 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God sent me before you to preserve you for a remnant of the earth, and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. Now therefore, it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of his household, and ruler of the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, 'Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all of Egypt. Come down to me, do not delay. You shall live in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, and your children, and your children's children, and your flocks, and your herds, and all that you have. There I will also provide for you, for there are still 5 years of famine to come, and you and your household, and all that you would be impoverished. Behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that it is my mouth which is speaking to you. Now you must tell my father of all my splendor in Egypt, and all that you have seen. You must hurry and bring my father down here." Then he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. He kissed all his brothers and wept on them, and afterwards his brothers talked with him. We know from Joseph's account in this passage, as well as previous chapters, that Joseph's brothers had sold Joseph into slavery in Egypt due to jealousy. But God was still with him there, and by his grace, allowed Joseph to become the second most powerful man in all of Egypt during the time of great famine, and had set it up for Joseph to finally be reunited and reconciled with his brothers. Not only that, he was also able to forgive them for what they had done, let go of the past, and help his brothers let go of the shame of what they had done, and to be reconciled with them and his father and the rest of his family. But there's many things that stand out in this passage, and many points that I feel like need to be covered when we talk about the topic of forgiveness and reconciliation. This passage serves a reminder that God can use people's sins towards us for his glory, that forgiveness frees, and that reconciliation reflects Christ. We know in the verses 4 to 8, when Joseph is giving the account of his brothers of what they have done, selling him into slavery in Egypt, and also about the amount of hardship he suffered, but also knowing that God had went ahead and made it work for his glory. Made it work together for Joseph's good, for the good of all the people of Egypt, and for the good of Joseph's family, and we allowed for Joseph to become the second most powerful man in Egypt. God used what happened with Joseph so that the land of Egypt would have food to last through a 7-year-long famine. It was only the second year of the famine at the time that Joseph had finally reunited with his brothers. And when Joseph's brothers came to Egypt, his whole family would be taken care of and provided for the next 5 years. It's amazing to see how God can do something like that through someone else's wrongdoings and make it all work out for his glory. But that's not the only time in the Old Testament where it's happened. There are other examples I could go over, but there's also some personal examples I have. There's been people in my life, friends now, but back in a long time ago, used to bully me, used to insult me, used to say mean things about me and my family, and for a long time, I was angry. Long time, I couldn't stand hearing that. The times where I would see them in school, I'd be super mad around this person and I'd do my best to go out of my way to avoid them. But it was around those moments also that I had already been a Christian by this point, and a key story from the Bible that stood out to me was the story of Joseph. So there's eventually moments When I finally talked to them, I told them that I forgive them for what they had said, and if they were willing, I was willing to be friends with them. And I still talk to some of these people to this day. There's some I haven't in a while, but for the most part, I'm still good friends with them. And God definitely took the situation I was in and made it work for his glory, just as he did with Joseph and his family. But that's not the only thing that I want to touch base on, because there's other things that we got to look over when we talk about this. Because the big thing about that for me was how forgiveness allowed for me to be freed of all the negative emotions I had held against these people. The bitterness, the anger, the fear, the toxicity, and anxiety. It allowed for those people to let it go too. But that's what I want to touch base on next. Forgiveness allows for freedom. When Joseph finally revealed himself to his brothers, the same family that had wronged him and lied to his father about, were dismayed to see him. They definitely felt terrible for what they had done to him. And knowing Joseph's staff in Egypt, they probably were expecting to be punished. They probably thought they were about to be executed or thrown in jail for what they had done. But instead, Joseph forgave them, despite everything they had done, all the suffering he had been through because of their mistake. He still forgave them and told them not to be angry at themselves or grieve themselves for their mistake towards him. Joseph had these emotions too, and had already let go of them a long time ago, and wanted to free his brothers from the same emotions. We know that because of the love that Joseph had for God, he also did have a strong love for his family. And he also knew if God was willing to forgive him of anything he had done wrong, he wanted him to he'd be willing for him to forgive his brothers for doing wrong to him. And he didn't just forgive them. He also testified to them how God made it work out for his glory, and that God's plan was greater than his brother's sin. By forgiving his brothers, he allowed for himself to be freed from his anger towards his brothers and the pains of the past, and for his brothers to free themselves from the same feelings. When we forgive others when they've wronged us, we've also freed ourselves from these things, and if other person is willing to accept our forgiveness, they're free too. But there's other things that one might be freed from when they show forgiveness to the people. Bitterness, tension, anxiety, aggression, potentially more negative relationships in the future. But of course, as Christians, we know that the ultimate thing that forgiveness, Christ's forgiveness, has freed us from is sin and the penalty of sin. And it's because of that forgiveness, we can be reconciled with our Father in heaven. And reconciliation is what I want to talk about next. When Joseph had forgiven his brothers, he told in verses 9 to 14, he told for them to tell his father Jacob with the good news that not only was he alive, but to tell him that all that God had done for him and for what Joseph would be able to provide for Jacob and for his family. After all this time, he wanted his family to be reconciled with each other. The same brothers who had wronged him, who had gone ahead and lied to his father about him being dead, he still wanted them to be reconciled with each other. He wanted to be reconciled with them. There are 4 prominent things that stand out to me when Joseph wants his father to know. For one, he wanted his father to know that his son was alive. 2, he wanted to know that his son was in a position where he was able to provide for his family. 3, a position where he was able to rescue his family. And 4, the urgency of the message. He wanted his brothers to let him know ASAP, as soon as possible. And those things are definitely something that sticks out to me, because as Christians, these things should definitely stick out to us, because we know of the Son, Jesus, who is alive forever, who is able to rescue, who is able to provide. And we should also be telling people as urgently as possible the good news about him, the good news about his forgiveness, the good news about what he's done on the cross, the good news that he is alive, and the good news that we can be reconciled with the Father because of what he's done for us. But there's also one more thing I want to note. After Joseph was finished with his request, he took the time to hug and kiss and weep with his brothers before finally talking with them all. He had taken the time to reconcile with those who had wronged him and show them love. And this is something that I feel like it's important to remember, is that reconciliation reflects Christ. Reconciling with those who wrong us reflects Christ's love and reflects his forgiveness. And that's something that I feel like is very important to remember, because we know what Jesus did for us on the cross. We're able to be reconciled with our Father. And because while we all sin, it never stopped God from loving us. That's why he sent his son Jesus down to live a sinless life on earth, to show us the way, to give his life for us. His life for us on the cross, and to forgive us, so that we could be restored and reconciled with the Father and be with him in heaven one day. When we reconcile to those who wrong us, we reflect Christ's love and forgiveness, and this is pleasing to him. When we reconcile with those who wrong us, we forgive others the way Christ forgave. We reflect Christ as well. Which brings me back to my main points. God can use others' wrongdoings towards us for his glory, as with the case of Joseph. We also know that through forgiveness, we allow ourselves and those we forgive to be freed from all kinds of negativity. And when we reconcile with those who wrong us, we reflect Christ. We know we have Christ's forgiveness of sin for what he has done, so we should be more than willing to forgive others and be willing to reconcile with them and also reflect them. We know that through forgiveness, that God can be glorified, and we can also show his love through forgiveness. That is why it is so essential to forgive others the way Christ forgave.